Hello, this is Mike Clark and I'm going to demonstrate to you the presets from my Commodore 64 sound emulation Insidious 6581. This is available for free for Native Instruments Reactor. You need the full version of Reactor, but there is a demo version you can have where you will get sound for 15 minutes. But I highly recommend buying the full product. It's amazing. So firstly, we'll start with the classic pulse width modulation sound. Probably the sound that's most associated with Commodore 64 music, but it wasn't unique to the sound chip. This is a sound that I created just to demonstrate the mixing of the modulation options of the SID sound chip. This uses ring mod and hard sync. It also uses a notch filter in the filter settings there, so you can get very fat sounds out of it. This is just a noise sweep using the noise waveform put through a bandpass filter. The SID has a very nice retro sounding noise sound, which of course is emulated here. This sound is just one that I created using one of the combined waveforms. This is a pulse plus triangle waveform put through another low pass filter. And a small attempt at doing a fingered bass sound. This one is a sound to overload the filter. When the filter overloaded, it has quite a unique distortion sound. So this uses all three channels to overload the filter input. By putting the noise waveform through a high pass filter, then we can get a hi-hat sound. Or by using the noise with a different low-pass filter with an envelope on it, we can get an explosion-type synthesized sound. The crackling at the beginning there is the filter overloading and distorting. This one's an example of using the table. You can see that this is moving there. Every step it will change according to the parameters that have been set there. So it'll switch from sawtooth to pulse, change the pitch and so on at a speed of 5 steps per second. And the lead from the game Shadowfire. This one is a sound from the music from the game Mutants. This is an example of using the table to switch the pitch very quickly to get a chord sound. It's very typical of 8-bit games. For this one, I've actually used 2 channels and set the pitch slightly differently on one to get a chorus effect. And the same again, but with a major chord instead of a minor one. Next is the sound from Light Force by Rob Hubbard. A classic. And the lead sound from Last V8. More Rob Hubbard stuff. This is the lead sound from Mega Apocalypse. This sound is Rob Hubbard's violin sound. He's used it on quite a number of games. Next is the big drum sound from the game Trap. By using two of them in two channels, you can get a much bigger metallic-y sound. Next is a sound from the loading music for Last Ninja 2. It's very simple. It's just changing the pitch using the table here. One of Rob Hubbard's snare sounds. And a simple analog bass, just two sawtooth oscillators through a low-pass filter. This sound uses 3 channels and has quite different waveforms in each one for an interesting sound. Next is an example of using hard sync. Hard sync is where one channel modulates the other, so when they have pitch differences, you can make a sound like this. Now this sound uses all 3 channels and uses ring modulation on 2 and hard sync on one of them, which gives a very modulating, interesting sound. Next is an example of how fat it can be when you use all 3 channels together as some sort of general mono synth. This is a simple arpeggio sound. It's good for putting through a delay. This is another example of using all 3 channels to overload the input on the filter to make it distort. This sound is one that's very typical of Commodore 64 games. The noise channel is used for the first step on the table, and sometimes that is used to try to emulate a hi-hat in the lead sound channel. This sound uses the filter as a notch filter with modulation on it that emulates a type of a room reverb sound. If I switch off the filter, you can hear that it's ordinarily just a very boring, simple sound. Another noise sound again, this time with randomized pitch and amplitude, with another with a bandpass filter on this one. Very straightforward, bright lead sound. This is a sound of the type that Jean-Michel Jarre used. It just randomly changes the pitch very quickly. This is another sound that uses the filter, and it uses hard sync with the pitch bender, which affects the modulation of the sync. This sound is 3 independent sounds with a different table set on each one, changing the pitch over time to give a little rhythm loop. And the same sort of thing again, just with a different type of loop. Now that's all of the ensemble presets. They affect the filter and each of the 3 channels. But by resetting this to init, there's a few other sounds in the channel sounds. There's some extra percussion sounds and some other sounds from some of the games. This is the bass sound from Monty on the Run. And the rather weird bass sound from One Man and His Droid. All of these sounds are created by using a real SID chip and dumping the registers out during the game is playing, so I can very accurately emulate the sounds. These last sounds are the sounds from the Delta theme tune and the R-Type theme tune. If you download the ensemble from the Native Instruments site, you get MIDI files that use these presets to recreate the Delta and R-Type theme tunes. And that's about it. As I mentioned, you can download this from Native Instruments user library. Just search for Insidious and you'll find it there. Thanks for watching.